This is The Art of the Question, where we teach you how to use great questions to solve problems, lift and inspire others, and to create change. Today, we're going to be looking at this exchange, this interview with Lester Holt and VP Kamala Harris. And we're going to break this down and show you why this is so epic. And really what we're going to do is show you how to recognize when someone is sidestepping your questions and how not to sidestep a question, how not to do it. Now, I apologize. My voice is kind of a bit raspy because of hay fever, but I hope it doesn't take away from this excellent interview and an explanation of how to make this, how not to sidestep a question, or how to recognize when someone has. So usually when someone is trying to sidestep a question, they do two things. Number one, they take the words, your words, and they redefine them. Number two, they go up the ladder in type of question. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So first off, when we want to give someone a lot of latitude, we're trying to get to a specific point. Maybe we're talking to someone at work or a child or one of our children or something. We want to get to a specific point, but we want to give them the opportunity to explain to us what they know we're really coming at them for. They really know why we're asking these questions, but we want to help them save face. So we ask a more broad question. And in this example here, Lester asks Kamala Harris an explanatory question, a question that involves her opinion and can't really be fact checked completely, but can just, here's why this works kind of a question. What he's really trying to get to is, when are you going to the border? When are you going to the border? And so he asks a broader question. This is his first question.
In the news conference here in Guatemala City, you had a message for would-be migrants: don't come. Why should they believe you when they know that people are getting in?
Okay. Great question, right? Great overall question. You just went to Guatemala. You talked with the leaders there. What about the crisis at the border? Give us an explanation. But at the same time, leaving it wide open that we're going there, but I'll let you try to answer it. She doesn't. She totally sidesteps the question, the thing that he's really trying to get at, by answering the broader question, of course, and that makes sense. He asks a more broad question and she answers that and never dives down. Well, next, he gets in a little bit more. He focuses a little bit more. And we tend to do this all the time, right? When someone sidesteps a question, we start focusing a little bit more. Although he asks another explanatory question, and that's at 124 here. He asks another question, and she again sidesteps it. Watch this.
And so the question has come up, and you heard it here, and you'll hear it again, I'm sure. It's, why not visit the border? Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Why not visit the border? Those were his words. What he's really saying is, why don't you go down and visit the border? Why not? Now, why? That's an explanatory question, right? Anytime you use, well, I don't want to say anytime, but a lot of times when we use the why at the beginning, we're asking for an explanation. So they give us an explanatory response. Doing that can allow some people a lot of wiggle room. We don't necessarily want to give people a lot of wiggle room, but in this case, he does. Again, to save face, just answer the question. She doesn't answer the question, so he has to jump down from an explanatory question to a binary question. In this case, it's a yes or no question. A binary question only has two outcomes. In this case, it's yes or no. There are a lot of other types, but in this case, it's yes or no. And she gets around it again. But let's listen to his question here at 4:30. He jumps to a binary question.
Let's not overlook progress.
Just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
All right, he even says, let's put a button on it, right? Do you have any plans to visit the border? Yes or no? Now, okay, so far she has sidestepped it. Now, here are the two ways that you can tell if people are sidestepping your question. First one is that they will reinterpret the words that you use, right? So let me show you this in her answers. She answers three things. The first answer, she actually gives a straight up answer, although not as comfortably as she would like. She answers the question. She says, at some point, basically, yes, at some point we're going to. So that's her first answer. And then she tries to sidestep it by giving another answer.
We are going to the border.
Okay, we are going to the border. Well, wait a minute. She just reinterpreted one of the words or the meaning of what he used, right? When are you going to the border? She now interpreted, instead of you singular, you as we all, right? So she said, we all are going to the border. But then she changes her mind again. She changes her answer again and says,
to the border.
We've been to the border. So at some point we're going to the border. We are going to the border. We've already been to the border. So those are three different questions, three different answers. But they all are binary, right? But because she has lumped them together, they start to be more factual, and then watch, they'll be more explanatory. She continues it after he asks another question.
This whole thing about the border, we've been to the border.
Okay, so right there, she actually goes into the explanatory part, right? We've been there. She starts to explain why she gave the answer she did. So anytime someone takes your answers and go up, or your question, and goes up the ladder of questions from binary to factual to explanatory now, there's an indication that they're trying to sidestep it. But here's his question, another binary question trying to nail it down.
We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
You haven't been to the border. And how do you can't really misinterpret that anymore, right? He points at her. You haven't been to the border. It's no longer you as in you all. It is now you haven't been to the border. He nails her down. Where does she go from here? She deflects it and she starts talking. She goes factual and then explanatory again.
And I haven't been to Europe.
And I haven't been to Europe. Factual, that's a factual answer, right? But she was answering a different question, right? And then she gets into the explanation of why she answered that.
And I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Well, I'm
okay. So she starts to get into she just doesn't say yes or no. And that's how you know those two things, misinterpreting or reinterpreting the words you use. And if they go from binary, yes or no, in this case, to factual, to explanatory. When people do this, you can recognize that they are trying to sidestep your question. Now, this was a great example. Unfortunately, what happens when someone does this, exactly what is, this is such a great example. When someone does this just like this, when the interviewer or the person asking the question goes from explanatory to factual to binary to nail it down, and the person goes in answers the opposite way, it shows the hearer or the viewer, in this case me and you, how disparate their worlds are, their thinking is. What it does is it shows them that one person is trying to get somewhere and the other person doesn't want to answer, and it becomes very apparent. The more they go off of each other, the more it becomes apparent to us that there's some duplicity there, that there's something that someone is trying to hide. And that is how you can tell that someone is sidestepping your question. So I hope you're able to use that in your business, in your family, in your work, whatever you do. But as you go throughout the rest of the day, I want you to be thinking about each question that you ask and that other people ask you. Is that binary? Is that factual, explanatory, or introspective?